be
So here's the deal. I appreciate your opinion. I disagree with your ability to influence my philosophy. So that's the reason why not. I can have these conversations. Plus, Marco
I think
is
you can have
an
him with
idiot.
him. I honestly do.
He's an idiot.
He's not an idiot.
He's
not an idiot.
He's
why?
An idiot.
Why
Do you see the way? You want to see why
funny,
he's an idiot?
He's entertaining, and he knows his stuff. He's not an idiot.
So here's the thing.
You don't agree with him, but he's not an idiot.
Hold on. Watch the video that he'll make about this radio show and show it to anybody else, and they will say, that guy's a friggin' idiot. He's an idiot.
No.
He's immature. He's stupid. He thinks he's smart. He's a waste of time. He's an idiot. He's not worth my time.
Okay, I'm not going to change your mind on him. I really wish you guys would talk to him.
I know, and I apologize. I didn't realize Scott dropped off. So if Scott was quiet, I apologize. He dropped off. So Scott, I'm going to let you talk. I was hogging the conversation. He might not have heard some of the things because he's traveling for those people listening in. Scott's in the car, and he might have dropped off. Scott, you're back.
Peter, I'm sorry. Peter, there's one thing I did want to say.
I think I'm back in civilization again. We were amongst the cornfields, but now we're close to Omaha. So
I know we're running out of time.
Hold on. Mad Dog wanted to complete a point, so go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you said, though, you, Peter, you became successful because you did everything your upline told you to do. You did this, you did that, you did this, you did that. And that's fine. That worked for you. But, see, that's what they talk about duplication in MLMs. You got to do this. Just do what your upline does. You want to be successful, you got to do what successful people do. So that doesn't work. It really comes down to the right time and the right person. You can do exactly what your upline did. But if you don't have the right person at the right time, that person, no matter what you say, may not sign up with you. That duplication thing is such bullshit. Because unless you have somebody that's willing to take that all in and say, yeah, I want to join it, it depends on the person. It doesn't depend on the pitch. Maybe there's guys that are like on the fence about it. You can pull them in. But I think that most people are like, I'm not interested in that. No matter what you say, they're not going to be. Like you are not interested in debating Marco because you have your opinion on him. So no matter what I say, you're not going to debate him because you're like, he's an idiot. I say he's not an idiot. I think he's smart. I think he's entertaining. I think he knows what he's talking about. Like, he's an idiot. He sucks. He's this, that. Whatever you guys call him. Marco, the Moocha Bear, Shyster, whatever. You guys, I don't know what you guys call him.
Well, Kevin, you're relatively new on the scene. When I first approached Marco a couple of years ago, I invited him on this show. And what he did was said, well, I have more followers on social media, and I'm not going to associate myself with you. Now, Marco associates himself with other YouTubers who have a lot more followers than him, so he's a total hypocrite. And so, the whole thing started because he was being nasty to me, and then he called Peter at 1 a.m. one night. It was actually the morning of Easter.
I know that one.
And just led him on and tried to get my phone number, and he faked who he was and his relationship with me. He's a liar. He's a total liar, and he's even said it on his show, I'm a very good liar. That's a person we don't want to associate with. He's also he was a cocaine dealer, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's dealing cocaine right now because he's not making much money on YouTube. He has no job. And he has to pay for an apartment. He lives by himself, so he has to pay for his car insurance, his food, his apartment. And I just don't know. I don't see him bringing the income in to support that. And he's talked over the last couple of years about being a total shyster. Okay, he's ripped off pizza companies, coffee companies, grocery stores, airlines, telephone companies. This is him on his videos. Talking about ripping off companies. That's a person I don't want to associate with.
But when it comes to the personal differences aside, when it comes to the MLM stuff, I think it would be a really good debate between you guys. It
would be, but you cannot separate the good debate stuff from the complete idiot. So
I think you could. And again, I don't.
Let me put this in a perspective that you would understand. I know your son just lost his tooth. Imagine somebody did something to your son, and you'd say, "Oh, You got to forgive him, Kevin. Come on, man. You just got to forgive him.
No, not fit.
You just got to forgive him. Oh, come on, man. You got to give him a chance. He's a nice guy otherwise. I mean, he does this, he does this.
If somebody did something to your kid, would you forgive him?
I think I just answered that question.
It's a little different when someone's messing with your family as opposed to somebody on YouTube that just says some words.
I think I just answered the question. So the problem is you really can't separate the two. Like, I can have a conversation. Me and you could disagree about a lot of things, but we're having a conversation. And I don't think you're probably on YouTube sitting there doing jerk-off things while we're talking. I don't think you're really going to pick any of these audios to use as sound effects a little bit later on. I don't think you're that much of an idiot. Like, we're having a conversation. But if you were to do that, then I'd say, you know what? I guess he's just like Marco. You know, so the reality is that the guy's an idiot. He'll never get a chance for watching his channel die. If I met him in a room all by myself, it would be very painful to watch for Marco, regardless of what he thinks. But the reality is that now he crossed the line a long time ago, Kevin. He crossed the line a long time ago. Guy will never be on my show. I can't wait until he gets his ass sued. And I hope Jay Nolan's attorneys go after him as well for some of the things that he said. So I hope he gets sued in every direction, and I can't wait until he lives in a cardboard box. And if that sounds mean, that's just the way it is. Because if I don't do it to him, somebody else is going to, because he's going after some hockey players with WFG, and he's going to get his way one way or another. He's not going to have to worry about a retirement plan. He's not going to live that long. So the reality is that's why he's never going to be on as far as this radio show with me here. If Scott wants to interview him, I won't be here. But but the reality is no, doesn't get another chance at it.
Would you go on his show?
No, because you can't separate the idiot. Can't have a conversation with the gentleman. He's an idiot.
I really think you should.
I'll make you a pinky.
I mean, I don't know.
I'll make you a pinky bet. Watch his reaction to this show, and then think whether we could really have a conversation or not.
Yeah, but let me put it this way. Gentlemen. You saw my comments. Obviously, that's why Scott reached out to me. You saw my comments and everything, and you probably were looking at that and saying, I can't have a conversation with this guy. I can't tell this guy's a fucking idiot. This guy is a New York tough guy. This guy's an obnoxious fucker. And I am. No lies told, Scott. That is me, okay? I am a fucking New Yorker in every fiber of my being. I am that guy. So no lies detected. I'm a stubborn, abrasive, obnoxious New Yorker. That is me. I'm not a tough guy, but I am the other things. And I'm definitely not a know-it-all. That's a fact. But you probably look at my comments and go, we can't have a conversation. I think we had a pretty good conversation tonight.
I have no problem with the conversation. The comments that I see on the trolling thing, I hate to say it, that's a whole bunch of people that are just, trash talking. I don't really look at any of those comments as being real for the most part. That's just people doing whatever they're doing because they're feeding off of Marco's attention, or they just want to say something without thinking. And most of those comments aren't really valid comments. So I don't hold that against it. And anything that I've seen you say, I say, I bet you if we had a conversation, it would go just well. So we might not agree on everything, but I'm sure we'd have a civil conversation. But unfortunately, I don't think we could do that with Marco. So I've mentioned his name too many times on this radio show.
You could try. You could try. And if it goes bad, you cut off the calls, right?
Yeah. Nah, you don't give a guy a chance. So just like the kid,
I'm just telling you. I think it would be. I think it would be good. Glenn thinks the same thing. You guys have had great conversations with Glenn as well.
You guys could all be wrong.
Well, maybe. One last thing, and I was going to ask this because I know Peter. Not Peter. I'm sorry, Scott. When I wrote a question down, and I don't think it was directly to you. I just mentioned it in one of the comment sections, and you said, "I will answer your sophomoric question." Do you remember what that was?
I don't remember that question.
Okay, so this was my question, and again, after talking to you guys, and I'm telling you, I have a lot more in common with you guys than I thought I did, to be completely honest. So, but listening to you talk, I'm just curious. Remember, my question was, if MLMs are such legitimate business opportunities, and they're good opportunities, why are people so vague? Why doesn't somebody just come out and go, hey, I'm an Amway IBO. I'd like you to be my downline. I'm doing this with Amway. I want you to come on board. I want you to be. But why are they, hey, I got a business opportunity. Well, what is it? Well, it's this, and there's all these vagaries, and there's all this gray area. But nobody actually just comes out and says, hey, I work for LuLaRoe, or I work for Herbalife. We'd have to have a whole other show on the health MLMs because those piss me off because they don't know shit about health. It's my life. It's a lot of my life is being in shape and knowing my health and knowing all this stuff. But why are they so vague, Scott? What was your answer to that? Why they just don't come out and say who they're affiliated with right from the beginning? Because if you're starting any kind of relationship and you started off on distrust, kind of like you guys do with Marco, right? How can you ever trust the guy?
Yeah, well, the reason is because MLMs have such a well-earned bad reputation. Once they talk about their name, especially in this day and age, because you mentioned the internet back in 2002 was not very well developed. Well, I joined in 1993 before the internet was even made public. Right, it was just part of the military and a couple of universities, so it was pretty much no information available back then. And so nowadays with the internet, if you say the company name, they Google it and they find out right away that it's a scam. So that's why they can't mention the name.
Yeah. Right. So we agree on that then.
And the other part, Kevin, is because it's worked. The reason why they do it is because, number one, that's the way they're taught. And they're taught this is the way it's done. Keep duplicating this process. So they're like, oh, okay. And the second part is it's worked. So for them, that's what they've used. Do I agree with that method? No, not at all. Do I understand that method? Absolutely. So what we were told in 1993 before the internet was don't go talk to your relatives, neighbors, friends, coworkers, because they're going to have an old idea of this is a door-to-door, pulling your wagon around the neighborhood selling stuff. And that's not what we are. We're now network marketing, and, it's way different. And so if you tell them it's Amway, they're going to have this old-fashioned idea in their head, and they're not going to be interested, and that's why you withhold the name. Now, that's not the real reason, right? That's what they told us was the reason. But the real reason was Amway had a very bad reputation, and you just don't want to say that word until very, very late in the presentation where you sort of get them hooked a little bit to the idea. And then in some groups, by the way, especially Worldwide Dream Builders, they'll have their people go to several meetings before they even bring up the A word, right? Amway. They really work them hard, multiple occasions to, convince them this is a good deal. And then very, very late in the game, they tell them it's Amway. But again, that's the different technique and different lines of sponsorship. But that's the reason they don't say the name is they have a very well-earned bad reputation. So does that answer your question?
It does, and I experienced it firsthand because, like I said, when I would talk about being in Quickstar and, hey, this is what I do, would you like to join me? And they said it sounds like Amway. That was a lot of the response. That sounds like Amway. So, yeah, it but like I said, we agree on that then. That's why. That was my point, is that it's a bad thing, and if you say it right away, people go, I'm not interested. So that was my point. So we agree on that.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna modify our agreement. And Scott, let me share with you, if you drop off, you can't get back on because we're over the time limit. So if Scott drops off, he can't get back. So let me use a real-life situation with the company I started with, which was called Electrolux. Electrolux sold vacuums. I was a college graduate. Oops. Alexa, stop. My Alexa device is coming up. So in the event that they would have put in the newspaper, Electrolux is hiring, selling vacuums, commission only, what do you think the likelihood of me, the college graduate, would have been to go on that job interview? Zero.
Probably not likely. Right, yeah.
Zero. So when I went in there, the gentleman, many times they had a blind off, what we call like a blind office. It was an office on top of the Electrolux store. So it's in New York, so you have storefront on the bottom. And lots of businesses have offices up on top of the retail stores. And in the retail store, he never really mentioned the name Electrolux. So he went through this whole thing telling me about a management training position and talking to me about the highlights of this. And, I won't bore you with the details of the job interview, but he told me about how I could earn the opportunity to run one of their offices. Never mentioned vacuums, never mentioned commissions. So I kind of went through the processes, and then eventually when I found out it was vacuums and it was going to be commission and it was Electrolux, I had to kind of make that intellectual decision, well, do I not do this or do I try it anyway? And if it wasn't for that, I'm holding up my fingers like quotes. If it wasn't for that level of deception, I probably would have never joined that company. So if he told me straight up front what it was, I would have never joined. But he prevented me. Now, some people are going to say this is a warped version of rationalizing deception. But because he didn't tell me what it was originally, I was able to make a better decision based on real information, and that led to the career and ultimately like the person I became. And, fuck you, Marco. All of the shithead gootheads are sitting there making their comments where they haven't made a fraction of the income that I've made over my lifetime. So the reality is that level of justified deception has a place in the marketplace. Now, some people might say, well, I don't like that. I'd say, I get it. And I get it. But that justified deception is what Electrolux used to recruit a lot of their managers, and they became some of the most successful people that I know. Now, so does that justify Amway from doing that? Well, if there was something on the back end that was legit and could really give them the opportunity, then I'd say, okay, I can understand the justified deception. The problem with Amway, and I got to keep coming back to this for you and Glenn and people that like listen to Scott's story. They never had a chance. The whole thing was a fraudulent business model based on the undisclosed tool scam. That's the whole thing. They never stood a chance. So you never stood a chance because you were plugged into an imperfect model. And unfortunately, that's the way Amway still does it today. So not every company does it that way. That's why I say you can't say that all MLM is bad. In Glenn's mind, because his dad was with Amway and still is, according to Glenn, in his mind, and I'm speaking out for Glenn, I mean, MLM equals Amway. I mean, that's all Glenn thinks about. Everything, it always reverts back to Amway and his dad. And that's true for everybody in Amway. Scott Johnson would still be in Amway with the tool scam if he was as blinded by their level of deception still, and that's part of the problem. Amway is not MLM. Amway is MLM done wrong. And I'll even go to say, it's not like the company is bad. The company allows bad practices. And maybe because the company allows bad practices, the company is bad. But the reality is I wish it wasn't that way, but that's just the way it is. So I hope that at least gives you something to think about relative to why they do it that way, because it works. Can you justify that way? Yeah, maybe I can. But why is it bad? Because there's nothing on the back end that makes it good. With Amway and the way they do it, very few people make money. It's just that upper echelon in the side of the tools business that makes that money. So I'll let you talk.
And Peter, let me make a non-sales analogy, and I'm sure Marco's going to twist this out of proportion too. But a non-sales analogy would be something like, when I went to college and I earned an electrical engineering degree, if they had told me coming out of high school how hard I would have to work for that, I'm not sure if I would have applied myself, all the way through those 4 years. Or when I joined the Navy, if they had told me, did you know you're going to have to stand 5 and dime watches, which means 5 hours on, 10 hours off, and the 10 hours isn't really off because then you have to do your during the day, during the week duties as well. But every single day, your body clock is being shifted around. If you do the numbers, 5 and dimes, it's daytime one day that you're awake and it's nighttime the next day you're awake, and you just get totally screwed up. If they had told me, you're going to have to do that, you're going to have to go through that, I may not have joined the Navy. Now, to Peter's point, is it fundamentally a scam in the operational aspect? And the answer is no. It's a legitimate degree. It's a legitimate military operation. There's no scam involved. It's hard, but there's no scam involved. But with Amway, many other MLMs, if they have a tool scam, if they have lack of retail sales, then it's a scam. It doesn't matter whether they hide it in the beginning, because fundamentally, operationally, it's a scam. And so those are just two completely different comparisons when you try to equate, an MLM scam to any other situation that has similarities to it. Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense. But that's, again, I think we agree that the majority of multi-level marketing is a scam, and it's impossible to succeed. It's impossible. Well, not impossible, because some people do, but it's very difficult to make any kind of actual income to where, see, to me, when I think Glenn might have said this, somebody would say define success in an MLM. And for me, again, this is just in an MLM, what I would consider successful is somebody that can do that full time and they clear minimum wage. To me, because again, that's like the top 1% could clear minimum wage in an MLM, because most of them don't clear that or make that. They lose money. But in real life, nobody aspires just to make a minimum wage. You know what I mean? The whole MLM dream is sold 10 to 15 hours a week, you're going to be a millionaire. And we know that that's just not feasible. It's not. So that's my biggest hang-up on these things. And again, living this firsthand, for 18 months of my life and seeing the ins and outs of what this is and the way they talk, and finding more and more out about it, and then finding Marco's channel when he did I forgot the first one. I think it was WFG. Maybe it wasn't WFG. I forgot who Hartage was.
He went after ACN. He went after ACN as well.
Yep, ACN. He went after ACN. He went after I Am Academy. The ACN one was great. That's my favorite video that he did. I love that because it just proves what kind of people that you're dealing with here. Those are shysters, man. That guy was a shyster. That's a shyster.
Now, just to also expand on the things that we're talking about, I don't want to say most, many other MLMs are really offshoots of Amway, meaning
yes, they are.
They learned what they learned from Amway, and therefore they just duplicate. So it's kind of like the gremlins, where you throw them in the pool, and all of a sudden they start popping up all over the place. So they just do what they were told. So that's part of the big problem. Now, if you would ask me what's my definition of success in MLM, my definition of success in MLM would be able to find a good company with some products that you would probably use yourself and enjoy, would increase your life or your lifestyle, that you would be able to sell and recruit enough people to be able to pay for those, generate profits, and also get tax deductions. So if you are an employee, you are able to save money on the legitimate tax deductions that a home-based business person could use as they're effectively building a business. And then so that's level of success. Whether it's a few $100, a few $1,000, that's maybe based on that person's ability to kind of go out there and do things based on a lot of variables. And then, let's call that the unit of success. As those units of success are developed, if you have a lot of them under you over time, you could make a boatload of money. And I remember when I was in direct sales, I could never outsell my group. Meaning, personally, my group, when I was successful, my group commissions were always way larger than anything I could ever do on a regular basis. So that would be success building a downline, where the people that are doing stuff on your own and the commissions that are generated get to be so big It outcompetes anything you can do. And then you can eventually have that legitimate financial freedom that you're looking for. But there's nothing about that says get rich quick or it's easy and pushing buttons on a calculator, 5 to get 5 to get 5. Nothing about my definition fits into any of the hype that you hear. So if you're weak, and I've said this before, there's no strength in weakness, which is, again, something Marco cannot figure out. But if you're weak, you sit there and overhype and you oversell the compensation plan. You start talking about becoming a bazillionaire. You're talking about the income level you're going to generate on your 87th level. That's weakness. That's not strong selling. If you're strong selling, you can actually explain this stuff to people. And unfortunately, not everybody's going to want to do it when you're done with your explanation. And that's what we call okay. So not everybody has to be sponsored in. So when they're sponsored in out of that level of deception, that's when MLM is done wrong. And you have to be around it done right to understand the difference. And that's when we get back into what does Marco really know? And he knows a little bit, and he hits some of the regular points on a regular basis, but when he starts to expand into areas that he doesn't know, that's when he's either bad for the community or he's just plain stupid. And part of that is just his hubris as far as just being plain stupid. So anyway, so I hope that helps. And Scott, you're still here, so we're over the time that we allotted. We can continue talking. And if you get disconnected, Scott, you can't call back in because the radio show's over as far as the programming is concerned. But
yeah, I've arrived at my destination, so my connection should be pretty good. Peter, we are over time, but I don't mind Kevin coming back again to be on the show if he wants to, and we can, delve into these questions and other questions that he might have, and just kind of expand the analysis, if you will.
Yeah, no, listen, I would come on again. So Scott, I'm not scared to come on now. I just happen to be a busy guy during the NBA because that is really what my channel is. I'm a sports broadcaster. That's what I do. I've always wanted to do that. It was a dream of mine, and I just never pursued it for whatever reason. I just never did. But YouTube allows me the opportunity to do that, and I love sports. It's a gigantic thing that I do, so I do videos about it. And, I just was really busy. It wasn't that I was avoiding it. I just really was busy at that time. And again, you can tell I have a 6-year-old kid. I work a full-time job. I go to the gym quite frequently. So I wasn't avoiding it. It just really was busy. But I was mostly
just giving you a hard time because you were giving me a hard time in the comment section. So it's no big deal. But yeah, if you want to come on again, now I think we've got guests. I think both next week and the week after. I'll have to, check my calendar to see if we have guests, in the next 2 weeks. But certainly the third week after this is open. I can pencil you in for that one. And if one of the next 2 weeks happens to open up,
you guys can communicate about that. Yeah, you guys can communicate that later on after the radio show. And one last thing, I asked you for the best. I know you like the Giants. So I'm a big Giants fan as well, even though I went to school at Hofstra. The Jets practice at Hofstra, but I was never a Jets fan. Yes. I asked you the best player, and you sold out. You said Lawrence Taylor. I was a huge – no, it's not. I was a huge Harry Carson fan. So if you remember Harry Carson. It might be a little bit – I remember
Harry Carson. That was in my heyday, but come on, Peter.
Harry Carson,
no way. There's no way.
Giant
There's no way you will ever convince me Lawrence Taylor's the greatest defensive player of all time.
No, he's the most commercial.
No, you'll never get me to come over there.
Harry Carson.
I'll never do that.
I'm telling you.
I love Harry Carson, and I love Derek.
I thought it was that receiver that caught it on his helmet.
No, Harry Carson was the linebacker. He was involved. I used to watch a lot of the tapes. The reason why I justify my answer is I used to watch all the tapes with the Giants playing, and Harry Carson was part of every play. It was almost like 6 degrees of separation with Kevin Bacon. You could just say Harry Carson was involved in that play. So I'll sit there. I'll debate you on that one. We'll sit there. We'll replay some of those tapes.
You'll never win. Now, maybe in the 70s when the Giants are a lousy organization, if he was there, you could say that. When Taylor got there in '81, the dude changed the entire way offenses had to guard the outside linebacker. Because of Lawrence Taylor, these left tackles get paid a fortune. I'm
That's
sorry,
probably
Peter,
true.
you will never.
He's a good player.
He's
a good player, not the best. We'll cover that some other time.
Yeah.
All right, Scott. All right, so we're done. Scott, why don't you give out if you Baddog, if you want to give out a YouTube channel, because we've been here and people might want to see what you're talking about. You can give out your channel if you want to.
Yeah, it's just Baddog Sports. That's it. BADDOG. Just Baddog Sports. That's it.
On YouTube.
You type in Baddog in the YouTube search engine, you'll find me. I have a pretty good following, so I usually pop up pretty quick.
So go to YouTube and you'll see him there. And then, Scott, if you want to give out your Facebook website.
Yeah, I'll give that out one more time. It's facebook.com/ScottTexJohnson, ScottTexJohnson. That's all one word. And, again, there's 3 websites there. There's the YouTube channel. There's a link to this radio show, as well as my email. And people are, welcome to reach out to me if they want to be on the show or just talk about MLM scams in general. But thanks, Peter, and thanks, Kevin, Baddog, and we'll have you back again because this was a good conversation, and I would love to continue it to educate people with real stuff versus, Marco, because Marco is not knowledgeable. And we can talk about that next show, too. We'll talk about that on the next show, but thanks for coming in, and Peter, I'll let you close it out. Go ahead.
So we'll see everybody next time on Building Fortunes Radio. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Building Fortunes Radio on buildingfortunesradio.com. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check us out every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for the designated Building Fortunes Radio segment with Peter Mingils. Be sure to check out the buildingfortunesradio.com website for our featured segments. It's been our privilege to have you listen in. At Building Fortunes Radio, we wish you the success you deserve and are willing to work for. So spread the word, tell a friend, join our